Why is this government always hanging back when it comes to getting serious with China?
Canada has a complex, multidimensional relationship with China that looks at challenges and engages with China with eyes wide open. Many international partners are also facing similar challenges and are actively engaging with them in order to evaluate best approaches together.
So as you just saw, the Liberals were under fire from Conservative leader Erin O'Toole today for not speaking out against a number of issues for China. The intimidation tactics on Canadian soil. This after reports that Beijing had used the Confucius Institute, the Chinese-backed education system, to gather political intelligence and push its own agenda in Canada. Also to suppress criticism of their own government here in Canada, the so-called Operation Fox Hunt. Conservatives are also demanding the government decide when they're going to ban Huawei from Canada's 5G network. A decision that's taken years to happen, all the while. Well, not only have Canada's allies done it, but two Canadians, Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig, have been detained in a Chinese jail for more than 700 days, apparently in retaliation for the arrest of Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou. So what should Canada do? Let's find out. Joining me now is the Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister, Omar Al-Ghabra. Also, NDP critic for housing, immigration, and refugees and citizenship, Jenny Kwan. And I think we'll get Michael Chong from the Conservatives in a minute. I think we're having a Skype issue there, but don't worry, we can handle it. Omar Al-Ghabra, good to have you here. Let me just start on Huawei. Most of the country's wireless providers have opted already to work with Ericsson. The Five Eyes allies, you know, the UK, the United States, New Zealand, Australia, won't adopt Huawei. You guys have been at this for years. What is the holdup?
Evan, first, let me thank you for giving me the opportunity to be on your show. And I look forward to hearing Michael join us. There's a process, and it's really, really important for Canadians, for the rest of the world to know that these decisions are not politicized and that there's a process that depends on national security experts, on advisors and public security subject matters. And this is what we're doing. And we're consulting with also our allies. We're consulting with the IFI.
But what do you I get that, but our allies have made decisions. It seems that our decision is on the back of a turtle here. Like, why is it so slow? Everybody else has made the call. Why not Canada?
Look, again, there's a process, and I understand the desire for seeing an outcome of this process as quickly as possible. I'm looking forward to finding out the outcome of this process. And while I respect the questions, but we need to follow the process, and we need to ensure that the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted.
Jenny Kwan, first of all, does the NDP support banning Huawei from 5G, and do you buy the fact that this process is taking years?
Well, first off, the NDP supports the motion. We do think that Canada should act and should ban Huawei from our 5G network for obvious reasons. We need to ensure that Canadians' privacy informations are protected. Their personal information is protected. We need to actually provide certainty to industry so that they can get on with the issue. And then, of course, as we know, Huawei is heavily tied to the Chinese government. And if they are to ask for and want the information, the personal information of Canadians, you have the reasonable outcome to think that they will, in fact, hand that data over. And so really, we need to protect Canadians first and foremost. And, the parliamentary secretary just said that, well, there's a process. Well, okay, but it's been 2 years in the making. The government has done a review on this issue. And Canadians still don't know, parliamentarians still don't know what is the outcome of that review. I think we have the right to know. I think the government needs to get on with it. And then also, as well, to send a clear signal to China, right? The threats that they've made against us, against Canadians, is simply not acceptable. I can't help but to think that the government is holding back on this decision because they're afraid to make that decision and to send that signal to China. They say that, related to the issue of Hong Kong, they brought in they brought in immigration measures, but I can't help but to notice that in the immigration measures, there are no refugee measures whatsoever. And this is when the Chinese ambassador had actually threatened us, right? Are these things all tied? Is that why we don't have a
Mr. Alghabra, even if I think that we'd love to see the results of the review, and I'll bring in Michael Chong in a minute, but real quick, like there's also a political aspect. China's kidnapped 2 Canadians by your own government's admission. They've cracked down on Hong Kong in a way that your government has said is completely a violation of human rights. They've run a spy network of intimidation in Canada called Operation Fox Hunt. A parliamentary committee concluded they're committing a genocide against the Muslim Uyghurs. Just from a purely, why do you need 2 years to study? Do you want a country that does that to have access to Canada's 5G?
Look, I recognize everything you said, and there has not, I mean, Jenny talks about sending a signal. I think there's no confusion about where the Canadian government stands on these allegations, on these troubling reports that are happening in Xinjiang, in Hong Kong, human rights. We've been consistent, we've been firm privately and publicly. We're working with our allies and making sure that China knows where we are and what the world's expectations from China is. The issue of Huawei needs to follow a process. And look, we cannot risk politicization, this process where at a time we're short-circuited and other times we follow it. We have to be consistent. And again, I understand the reasons for questions, but we need to follow the process, and we need to follow it to its end.
Okay, well, let me bring in Michael Chong. So he's finally here. Michael Chong, good to have you here. What do you make of this? We got to follow the process line from the government.
No, I don't. I think the process is complete. I think the security and intelligence entities in the government of Canada have made their conclusions. I think this is simply delay and indecision on part of this government. 4 of Canada's 5 eyes have already made a decision to restrict or to ban Huawei from their 5G networks. Canada now stands alone, isolated, in not making this decision. And it's long past time for the government to have made a decision. In fact, the government admitted it itself. Last year, in May of 2019, former Public Safety Minister Ralph Goodale said that the government would make a decision before the 2019 federal election. Then in July, the government changed its mind and punted that decision till after the 2019 election. Well, it's now more than a year after the federal election and still no decision. It's long past time for Canada to make a decision. In fact, a lack of a decision is actually threatening Canada's national security today. There have been reports in the Globe and Mail that TELUS, one of Canada's largest telecommunications companies, has been purchasing Huawei's equipment and installing it in the National Capital Region in contravention of an understanding that they would not do that. The National Capital Region is home to federal government offices, to the Department of National Defense, the RCMP, CSIS, and military installations, and it's now presenting a threat to our national security because of this government's indecision.
Okay, well, hang on. So I'm going to move on to another topic, but I want Mr. Alghabra, can you respond to that? Again, these are allegations about TELUS. I saw that report as well. CTV can't verify any of that. But what's your take on that, Mr. Alghabra? Is there equipment being installed? Is your government aware of that? And are you concerned about it?
Look, I am not aware. I saw the reports. I'm not aware. But again, look, there's a difference between an opposition member of parliament who has political points of view and arguments to make and holding government accountable, and a difference when it comes to making decisions for the national security of our country, the reliance on experts, on public safety advisors, and the process that needs to be followed. So, and as a representative of the government here, I'm telling you, we have to respect the process. We have to maintain the integrity of the process. And I understand. I understand the need for a decision. I understand the pressure by the opposition.
But the process, I mean, to be fair, okay, I'll give Jenny Kwan a little last word on this real quick. Jenny Kwan, if it's a 2-year process, they've had a review. I mean, I guess we can't get an answer. This process could be endless. Do you think this is causing harm, Jenny Kwan, or what do you make of Mr. Alghabra saying you're just scoring political points?
Well, I just don't buy the notion that there's a process and we haven't run the course of the process. I mean, the government can say that the process can last for years and years and years, and Canadians will never know. And I think that it is in the best interest of the Canadians to know what is that decision. It is in the best interest for businesses to know so that they have the assurance and the security in moving forward. I think with these other reports in terms of what's happening with potential installation of equipment in the capital by TELUS and other things like that. And then, you know, right. all these issues that are surfacing is because of that indecision that's causing a problem.
Right.
Process is run the course. The government
Okay,
needs to
guys.
support Canadians' need for knowledge.